The research station Kepler 442b hummed with the quiet efficiency of advanced alien technology, its crystalline walls filtering the amber light of a distant star. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the bioscanner, watching as holographic displays materialized around her workstation. The Zeltharian Botanical Preserve stretched beyond the transparent dome, a vast garden world that housed the galaxy's most precious flora from 17 different star systems. Elena had been the only human selected for the Galactic Botanical Research Initiative, an honor that still felt surreal after 3 years on this alien world. The Zeltharians, tall, graceful beings with skin like polished silver and eyes that shifted color with their emotions, had initially been skeptical of human involvement. Their species had spent millennia cataloging and preserving rare plant life across the galaxy, viewing themselves as the ultimate botanical custodians. Human Vasquez, came the melodic voice of Keeper Threnody, the station's chief botanist. Her eyes currently glowed a cool blue, indicating professional curiosity. The morning scan detected unusual energy signatures in Sector 7. We require your expertise in carbon-based analysis. Elena nodded, gathering her portable lab equipment. Despite their initial reservations, the Zeltharians had grown to respect her unconventional methods. Where they relied on sophisticated quantum scanners and bioharmonic readings, Elena often used what they considered primitive techniques: soil testing, manual cross-pollination, and careful observation of growth patterns. Her human intuition had already led to 3 significant discoveries, earning her grudging acceptance among the preserve staff. The transport pod glided silently through the preserve's winding pathways, past towering Andromedan crystal trees that sang in harmonic frequencies and floating gardens of vegan moss that glowed with bioluminescent patterns. Elena never tired of this alien paradise, each species representing millions of years of evolution on distant worlds. Sector 7 was different from the rest of the preserve. Here the Zeltharians kept their most dangerous and unstable specimens, plants that could alter reality, emit deadly radiation, or exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Elena's clearance for this section was a testament to how far she'd come in earning their trust. The readings are strongest near the temporal variance gardens, Threnody explained as they approached a shimmering barrier of energy. Something is growing that shouldn't exist. Elena activated her handheld scanner, immediately noticing the impossible readings. The device showed energy signatures that defied known physics, matter that existed in probability states rather than fixed reality. She knelt beside a patch of disturbed soil, running the mineral-rich earth through her fingers. "This is recent growth," she murmured, studying the way the soil particles seemed to shift and dance. But the energy patterns suggest something ancient, possibly older than current galactic civilization. Threnady's eyes shifted to purple, indicating deep concern. "That's impossible. We've cataloged every extinct species in our archives going back 50,000 years. Elena continued her examination, following a trail of disturbed earth that led deeper into the sector. The very air seemed to thicken with potential energy, causing her instruments to fluctuate wildly. After an hour of careful tracking, they found themselves at the edge of a small clearing, where reality itself seemed uncertain. In the center of the clearing, a single flower grew from what appeared to be crystallized space-time. The bloom was unlike anything in known taxonomy, petals that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, colors that had no names, and a presence that seemed to acknowledge their observation. "By the eternal gardens," Threnody whispered, her skin shifting to a pale silver that indicated shock. "It's the eternum bloom." Elena had heard whispers of this legendary flower during her botanical studies. According to galactic folklore, the eternum bloom was the first flower to exist in the universe, a theoretical plant that supposedly grew at the moment of creation itself. Most scientists dismissed it as mythology, a romantic notion with no basis in reality. "The legends say it only appears once every million years," Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper, "and only when the universe faces a significant change or threat." Threnady's eyes now flickered between colors rapidly, a sign of extreme emotional conflict. "If this is truly the eternum bloom, its appearance here means something unprecedented is coming. The flower is said to be a herald, appearing to warn chosen guardians of cosmic events." Elena approached the flower carefully, her scanner detecting energy readings that shouldn't be possible. The bloom seemed to pulse with the rhythm of distant stars, its multi-dimensional petals shifting through spectrums of light that her human eyes could barely process. As she drew closer, she felt a strange pull, as if the flower was calling to her specifically. "I need to collect samples," Elena said, reaching for her bio-collection kit. "If this is really what we think it is, we need to understand why it's here and why it's appearing now." Threnody grabbed her arm gently, her touch surprisingly warm. "Human Vasquez, the legends also speak of consequences for those who disturb the eternum bloom. Some say it tests the worthiness of those who find it." Elena looked into Threnody's shifting eyes, seeing genuine concern for her safety. Despite the formal nature of their working relationship, she realized the Zeltharian had grown to care about her well-being. It was a touching moment that strengthened her resolve. "Then we'd better hope I'm worthy," Elena replied with a small smile, "because if this flower really is a warning about something coming, humanity and every other species in the galaxy might depend on understanding its message." As Elena prepared her equipment, neither she nor Threnody noticed the way the flower's glow intensified, or how the space around them began to shimmer with possibilities that would soon change everything they thought they knew about life, the universe, and humanity's place within it. Elena's bio-collection probe trembled as it approached the eternum bloom. The flower's multidimensional petals seemed to respond to her presence, shifting through colors that existed beyond normal perception. Her equipment registered readings that defied every principle of botanical science she'd ever learned. "The cellular structure is impossible," she muttered, studying the data streaming across her scanner. "It's simultaneously solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. How can something exist in 4 states of matter at once?" Threnody moved closer, her silvery skin now displaying rapid color shifts that indicated extreme fascination mixed with fear. "The ancient texts speak of the eternum bloom existing outside normal physical laws. It's said to be composed of pure potential rather than conventional matter." As Elena's probe made contact with one of the flower's petals, a wave of energy pulsed outward from the bloom. The wave passed through both women harmlessly, but every piece of electronic equipment in a 50-meter radius sparked and flickered. Elena's scanner displayed a cascade of symbols that weren't from any known language or mathematical system. "It's communicating," Elena breathed, watching as the symbols arranged themselves into patterns that seemed almost familiar. "These aren't random energy discharges. There's intelligence behind this." The flower's glow intensified, and suddenly Elena found herself experiencing flashes of images that weren't her own memories. She saw vast ships moving between stars, civilizations rising and falling across millennia, and something dark approaching from the spaces between galaxies. The visions came in rapid succession, each one more disturbing than the last. "What's happening to you?" Threnody asked, noticing Elena's distressed expression. "I'm seeing things," Elena replied, her voice strained. "Visions of the past and future. There's something coming, something that threatens every living world in the galaxy." The visions continued, showing Elena images of the Void Hunters, ancient entities that existed in the spaces between realities, feeding on the life force of entire civilizations. They had been dormant for millions of years, but something was awakening them, drawing them toward the populated galaxy like moths to flame. "The flower chose you specifically," Threnody said, her eyes now a deep gold that indicated profound realization. "In all our legends, the eternum bloom only reveals its visions to those who can act upon them. You're not just a researcher anymore, Elena. You're a herald." Elena staggered back from the flower, the intensity of the visions overwhelming her human nervous system. In her mind, she saw the pattern clearly now. The Void Hunters were attracted to high concentrations of life energy, and the Galactic Botanical Preserve was like a beacon calling to them across the cosmos. Every rare plant, every preserved ecosystem, every living wonder they'd worked so hard to protect was now a target. "We have to warn the Galactic Council," Elena said, but even as she spoke, she knew the futility of it. The Council was a bureaucratic nightmare of 17 different species, each with their own political agendas. By the time they finished debating the threat, the Void Hunters would have already arrived. Threnody seemed to read her thoughts. The Council would never act quickly enough. They'd demand proof, evidence, committee reviews. The Zeltharian High Command might listen to me, but they're only one species among many. Elena looked back at the eternum bloom, which continued to pulse with otherworldly energy. In her visions, she had seen something else. A possibility. A path that could save not just the preserve, but potentially the entire galaxy. It required sacrifice, courage, and the kind of desperate innovation that humans were known for throughout the cosmos. There might be another way, Elena said slowly. In the visions, I saw weapon systems, ancient defenses built by civilizations that faced the Void Hunters before. They're still out there, hidden in dead systems, waiting for someone with the knowledge to activate them. But how could we possibly find and activate ancient weapons across the galaxy? Threnody asked. Even with our fastest ships, it would take decades to search even a fraction of the dead systems. Elena smiled grimly, an expression that made Threnady's skin shift to a nervous pale blue. Because humans have something that most other species don't. We're incredibly good at being reckless and making impossible plans work. We've been doing it since we first left Earth. She activated her personal communicator, sending an encrypted message to every human ship, station, and colony in the galaxy. The message was simple but would set in motion events that would either save civilization or destroy everything they'd built. Elena, what have you done? Threnody asked, seeing the determined expression on the human's face. I've called in every favor, every friendship, every connection that humanity has made in this galaxy. Elena replied. We're about to attempt something that will either be remembered as the greatest rescue mission in galactic history or the most spectacular failure ever recorded. The Eternum bloom pulsed brighter, as if approving of Elena's decision. In response to her call, ships across the galaxy began changing course, heading toward predetermined coordinates that Elena had somehow known to include in her message. The flower's visions had given her more than just warnings. They'd provided a complete tactical overview of what needed to be done. The preserve's defense systems are already outdated against what's coming, Elena continued, her mind racing through calculations and possibilities. But if we can network every human ship with the preserve's botanical database and use the life energy readings as a targeting system for the ancient weapons, we might have a chance. Threnody stared at Elena with growing amazement, her skin cycling through colors that indicated she was experiencing something unprecedented, hope mixed with terror and profound respect for the audacity of human thinking. You want to use the very thing that's attracting the Void Hunters as a weapon against them, she said, understanding dawning in her shifting eyes. Exactly, Elena confirmed. And if it works, it won't just save the preserve. It'll create a defense network that can protect every living world in the galaxy. As if responding to their conversation, the Eternum bloom released another pulse of energy, and Elena received one final vision. Herself standing before the assembled fleets of 17 species, no longer just a botanical researcher, but a war coordinator about to attempt the impossible. Within 6 hours of Elena's message, the first human ships began arriving at the preserve. Captain Marcus Chen of the cargo hauler Determination was the first to dock, his weathered face showing the confusion shared by every human who had received Elena's cryptic but urgent call. Dr. Vasquez, Chen said, as he stepped off his ship. Your message mentioned Code Lazarus and galactic-scale botanical emergency. I've been hauling supplies between colonies for 15 years, and I've never heard either of those terms before. Elena met him at the docking bay, Threnody beside her, the Zeltharian skin displaying colors that indicated she was still processing the unprecedented events unfolding around them. Behind Chen, Elena could see more ships approaching. Military vessels, research ships, even converted passenger liners. The human response was exactly what she'd hoped for, immediate, overwhelming, and completely willing to trust one of their own in crisis. Captain Chen, what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, Elena began, leading him toward the preserve's central command chamber. But humanity's talent for achieving the impossible is exactly why you're here. As they walked through the preserve's corridors, Elena explained everything. The Eternum bloom, the visions of the Void Hunters, and the desperate plan she'd formulated to turn the galaxy's greatest weakness into its ultimate defense. Chen listened with the focused attention of someone who'd spent years making split-second decisions in deep space. So you're telling me, Chen said slowly, that we need to link every human ship in the galaxy to this alien flower, use botanical energy readings to target ancient weapons we're not even sure exist, and somehow coordinate all of this before cosmic monsters arrive to eat everything alive. That's essentially correct, Elena confirmed. Chen was quiet for a long moment, then broke into a grin that reminded Elena why humans had a reputation for controlled insanity throughout the galaxy. When do we start? Threnity's eyes shifted to bright yellow, indicating amazement.
You're not questioning the plan's feasibility or demanding more evidence?
Ma'am, Chen replied respectfully. Dr. Vasquez has been right about everything botanical for the past 3 years. If she says the galaxy's in danger, and we're the ones who can fix it, then that's good enough for me. The command chamber filled rapidly as more human captains arrived. Elena found herself facing a crowd of space-weathered faces, representing every aspect of human presence in the galaxy. There were military officers, merchant captains, exploratory vessel commanders, and even a few representatives from the more questionable aspects of human enterprise. Captain Sarah Okafor of the research vessel New Horizons stepped forward. Dr. Vasquez, my ship's equipped with the most advanced scanning arrays in human space. If you can tell us what we're looking for, we can find it. Elena activated the central hologram, showing the tactical overview the Eternum Bloom had provided. The three-dimensional map displayed the galaxy with hundreds of red dots marking dead systems, where ancient weapons lay dormant, waiting for activation. Each of these locations contains defensive systems built by civilizations that faced the Void Hunters before, Elena explained. They're powered down, hidden, but still functional. We need to reach them before the Hunters arrive and create a network that can respond to life energy concentrations across the galaxy. Commander Jackson Torres from the military frigate Defiant studied the hologram with a tactical eye. The logistics are staggering. We're talking about coordinating simultaneous operations across thousands of light years. Even with our fastest ships, communication delays alone would make real-time coordination impossible. Unless, Elena said, pointing to the Eternum Bloom's energy signature on her scanner. We use quantum botanical entanglement. The room fell silent. Quantum entanglement was a well-understood phenomenon in physics, but quantum botanical entanglement was purely theoretical. The idea that living systems could maintain instantaneous connection across any distance. Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the science vessel Curiosity raised her hand. Dr. Vasquez, are you suggesting that the Eternum Bloom can serve as a quantum relay for biological systems across the galaxy? Not suggesting, Elena replied. The flower has already been doing it. Every rare plant in this preserve is quantum entangled with its species' homeworlds. That's how the preserve maintains perfect environmental conditions for plants from 17 different star systems. We're going to hijack that network. Threnity's skin shifted through several colors rapidly, indicating she was experiencing multiple intense emotions simultaneously. Elena, you're talking about using our most sacred botanical preservation network as a military communication system. The ethical implications alone are irrelevant if everyone's dead, Elena finished firmly. Keeper Threnody, I respect your people's dedication to botanical preservation, but right now the only way to preserve anything is to fight for it. Captain Chen stepped forward again. Dr. Vasquez, just tell us what you need us to do. Elena smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility and the familiar thrill of a seemingly impossible challenge. I need you to be what humans do best. Adaptable, resourceful, and absolutely determined to succeed against overwhelming odds. She began outlining specific assignments. Fast ships would be dispatched to the nearest ancient weapon sites to begin reconnaissance and activation procedures. Larger vessels would serve as mobile command centers, coordinating multiple operations simultaneously. Research ships would work with the preserve's botanical network to establish quantum communication links. Captain Okafor, I need your ship to interface directly with the Eternum Bloom, Elena continued. We're going to use your scanning arrays to map the flower's quantum connections and piggyback our communications onto its network. And if it doesn't work? Asked Commander Torres. Elena looked around the room at the assembled humans, seeing the same expression on every face, determination mixed with the kind of calculated recklessness that had carried humanity from a single planet to a galactic presence in just 3 centuries. Then, we improvise, she said simply. It's what we're good at. As the meeting dispersed and captains returned to their ships to begin the most ambitious rescue operation in galactic history, Elena remained in the command chamber with Threnody. The Zeltharian's skin had settled into a deep purple that indicated profound contemplation. Elena, Threnody said quietly, in all our records of species that have joined galactic civilization, None have ever attempted anything on this scale. Most species would spend years planning, forming committees seeking consensus. Most species don't have the luxury of being naturally crazy. Elena replied with a smile. Sometimes the universe needs someone willing to try the impossible without thinking too hard about why it won't work. Outside, human ships were already departing for their assigned coordinates, carrying hopes that seemed too fragile to survive the vastness of space but too determined to fail. 72 hours after the first human ships departed, Elena stood in the New Horizons modified cargo bay, watching as her team attempted something that would have been called madness if it weren't absolutely necessary. Captain Okafor's ship had been converted into a mobile botanical laboratory. Its scanning arrays now interfaced directly with a cutting from the Eternum bloom. Quantum resonance is holding steady, reported Dr. Tanaka, monitoring readings that fluctuated through impossible ranges. The bloom cutting is maintaining its connection to the parent plant across 17 light-years. This shouldn't be possible according to any known physics. Elena smiled grimly. The universe has been full of impossibilities lately. Let's add one more. Through the modified scanning arrays, Elena could perceive the vast network of quantum-entangled botanical connections that stretched across the galaxy. Each rare plant in the preserve was linked to its homeworld, creating an invisible web of instantaneous communication that spanned thousands of star systems. It was beautiful, elegant, and completely contrary to everything science said should be possible. Dr. Vasquez, came Captain Chen's voice over the quantum botanical network, his transmission arriving instantaneously from a dead system 300 light-years away. "We found the first weapon platform. It's incredible." Elena activated the visual feed, watching as Chen's ship approached what appeared to be a crystalline structure the size of a small moon. The ancient weapon platform hung in space like a work of art, its surfaces covered with symbols that shifted and changed as the human ship drew closer. "The platform is responding to our life signs," Chen reported. "Something's powering up, and I'm getting energy readings that make our fusion reactors look like campfires." Across the network, similar reports were coming in from dozens of human ships. Ancient weapons platforms were awakening after millions of years of dormancy, recognizing the presence of living beings and beginning activation sequences that defied comprehension. "Elena," Threnody said quietly, her skin displaying the deep gold that indicated profound realization. "These weapons weren't just built to fight the Void Hunters. They were built to be activated by species like yours, species willing to take desperate chances to protect life itself." Elena nodded, understanding beginning to dawn. The civilizations that built these weapons knew they would fall to the Void Hunters. But they also knew that eventually, someone like us would come along, someone crazy enough to use their botanical preservation network as a weapons targeting system, Commander. Torres's voice crackled over the network from another distant system. "Platform 7 is online and requesting targeting data. Elena, these things are designed to lock onto life energy concentrations. If we activate them all simultaneously, we can create a defensive network that covers the entire galaxy." "Do it," Elena ordered. "All ships begin full activation sequences." What happened next would be remembered as either the greatest triumph in galactic history or the most spectacular failure ever recorded. Across the galaxy, ancient weapon platforms came online in perfect synchronization, their targeting systems linking through the quantum botanical network that Elena had hijacked for military purposes. The Eternum bloom on the preserve began to glow with increasing intensity, its multidimensional petals shifting through spectrums of light that human eyes couldn't properly process. Through the flower's quantum connections, Elena could feel the awakening of defensive systems that had waited eons for this moment. "Energy surge detected at the galactic rim," reported Dr. Tanaka, her voice tight with tension. "Multiple contacts approaching at faster than light speeds. The Void Hunters have arrived." Elena watched the tactical display as her improvised early warning system tracked the approaching entities. They moved like living shadows through space, each one the size of a small planet, and radiating an aura of absolute hunger that made her skin crawl even through the scanner interface. "All platforms report ready for firing," Commander Torres announced. "Targeting solutions locked on all incoming hostiles." Elena took a deep breath, knowing that the next few minutes would determine the fate of every living world in the galaxy. "Captain Okafor, how's our connection to the botanical network?" "Stronger than ever," Okafor replied. The Eternum bloom is amplifying our signal across every quantum-entangled plant in the preserve. We have real-time communication with all platforms. Then let's show these void hunters what happens when they threaten a galaxy protected by humans. Elena activated the firing sequence, and across the galaxy, ancient weapons platforms responded with devastating precision. Beams of crystallized starlight lanced out from hidden positions, striking the void hunters before they could react to the threat. The entities that had devoured countless civilizations found themselves facing coordinated resistance for the first time in their existence. But the void hunters were not easily defeated. They adapted quickly to the attack, splitting into smaller formations and using their ability to exist partially outside normal spacetime to avoid the worst of the bombardment. "They're learning our firing patterns," Captain Chen reported. "Platform effectiveness is dropping rapidly." Elena smiled, the expression that had become familiar to everyone who worked with her. The look of someone about to attempt something even more impossible than what they'd already achieved. Then, "It's time for the human factor," she announced. "All ships begin random pattern modifications. Don't let the platforms calculate optimal firing solutions. Make it up as you go along." Across the galaxy, human captains began implementing the kind of chaotic, unpredictable tactics that had made their species famous throughout known space. They modified weapon trajectories on the fly, created false targeting data to confuse the void hunters' adaptive responses, and coordinated attacks that followed no logical pattern beyond human intuition. The void hunters, entities that had consumed civilizations based on logical, predictable defensive strategies, found themselves completely unable to adapt to the sheer randomness of human military thinking. "It's working," Dr. Tanaka reported, amazement clear in her voice. "Hunter formation coherence is breaking down. They can't predict our next moves because we're not making logical tactical decisions." Elena watched as the ancient weapons platforms, guided by human unpredictability and connected through a network of quantum-entangled flowers, systematically dismantled the Void Hunter invasion force. It was chaos given form, desperation turned into strategy, and the kind of beautiful insanity that only humans could have conceived. As the last Void Hunter fell to the combined firepower of awakened ancient weapons and human tactical innovation, Elena realized that her reaction would indeed be priceless, because she had just discovered that sometimes the rarest thing in the universe isn't a flower, but a species willing to risk everything to protect life itself. In the aftermath of the battle, Elena found herself standing once again before the Eternum bloom, but this time she was not alone. Representatives from all 17 member species of the Galactic Council had arrived at the preserve, their expressions ranging from amazement to disbelief to carefully controlled fear. Ambassador Krex of the Andorian Trade Federation, a being that resembled a crystalline spider with far too many eyes, clicked his mandibles in what Elena had learned was their equivalent of nervous laughter. "Dr. Vasquez, in the span of 72 hours, your species has managed to hijack our most sacred botanical network, activate weapon systems that have been dormant since before recorded history, and coordinate the largest military operation in galactic history, all without official authorization from any governing body. When you put it like that, it does sound rather impressive," Elena replied with the kind of understated human humor that made most alien species uncomfortable. Threnody stepped forward, her skin displaying the complex pattern of colors that indicated she was speaking in her official capacity as a Zeltharian keeper. "Honored representatives, what humanity accomplished here was not just military victory. They proved that cooperation between species can transcend bureaucratic limitations when survival is at stake." Council Speaker Vorth, a massive being that looked like a living mountain with far too many arms, rumbled his displeasure. "The humans acted without consultation, without proper authorization, without regard for established protocols. This sets a dangerous precedent for independent action." Elena felt her temper rising. The same stubbornness that had driven her to attempt the impossible plan now focused on defending her species' actions. "Speaker Vorth, with all due respect, your established protocols would have taken months to approve any action. The Void Hunters would have consumed half the galaxy while we were still filling out the proper paperwork. That is precisely the kind of reckless thinking that makes your species dangerous," interjected Ambassador Theiss of the Serpentine Collective, her scaled head weaving in patterns that indicated diplomatic disapproval. "What if your plan had failed? What if activating the ancient weapons had triggered some unknown catastrophe? Captain Okafor, who had remained silent during the diplomatic exchanges, finally spoke up. Ambassador Thys, what if we had done nothing? The Void Hunters were already here. The catastrophe you're worried about was already happening. Elena noticed that several of the human captains had remained at the preserve, forming an informal honor guard around the diplomatic proceedings. Their presence was a reminder that while the immediate threat had passed, the humans who had saved the galaxy were still here, still organized, and still capable of taking independent action. The question now, Elena said, addressing the entire council, is what we do with the defensive network we've created. The ancient weapons platforms are still active, still connected through the botanical quantum network. That system could protect the galaxy from future threats, but it requires coordination between all our species. Ambassador Krex's mandibles clicked more rapidly, indicating increased agitation. You're suggesting that humans should maintain control over a galaxy-spanning weapons network? The implications for the balance of power are staggering. I'm suggesting that all of us should maintain control, Elena clarified. The network exists because we combined human innovation with Zeltharian botanical science and ancient alien technology. No single species could operate it effectively. Threnity's skin shifted to a warm golden hue that indicated growing excitement. Elena is correct. The quantum botanical network requires constant maintenance and calibration that only Zeltharian science can provide. But the tactical coordination needed to operate the weapons platforms exceeds our capabilities. We need human strategic thinking, and the other species represented here have resources and knowledge that both humans and Zeltharians lack. Elena continued, seeing an opportunity to turn the diplomatic crisis into something more constructive. The Andorian trade networks could provide rapid logistics support. Serpentine collective intelligence could process threat analysis faster than any individual species. The mountain people of Vorth's species could provide the kind of patient, long-term perspective needed for galactic defense planning. Elena could see the council representatives processing her words, their various expressions indicating different levels of interest and concern. She pressed her advantage, drawing on the same intuitive understanding of complex systems that had made her such an effective botanist. The Void Hunters weren't the only threat out there, she continued. The Eternum Bloom's visions showed me other dangers approaching from beyond our galaxy. Entities that make the Void Hunters look like minor predators. If we want to survive what's coming, we need to work together in ways that none of our species have ever attempted before. Speaker Vorth's rumbling voice carried new undertones of consideration. You speak of cooperation, Dr. Vasquez, but your species has demonstrated a concerning tendency toward independent action. How can we trust that humans won't simply take control of the entire network? Captain Chen stepped forward, his weathered face serious. Speaker Vorth, 3 days ago, Dr. Vasquez sent out a call for help, and every human ship within response range dropped everything to answer. We didn't ask for payment, we didn't demand territorial concessions, and we didn't try to claim any of the ancient weapons for ourselves. We came because one of our own said the galaxy needed saving, and we trusted her judgment. That's what humans do, added Commander Torres. We show up when people need help, we fight for causes bigger than ourselves, and we go home when the job is done. It's not always smart, it's not always safe, but it's who we are. Elena watched as the council representatives exchanged glances, their various species' methods of non-verbal communication, creating a complex web of diplomatic signaling that she was only beginning to understand. After several minutes of silent deliberation, Ambassador Thys spoke first. The Serpentine Collective acknowledges that human military innovation proved effective against the Void Hunter threat. We would be willing to contribute intelligence resources to a joint defensive network, provided proper oversight mechanisms are established. Ambassador Krex's mandibles clicked in what Elena now recognized as reluctant agreement. The Andorian Trade Federation controls the most extensive logistics network in the galaxy. If the other species are willing to commit to this joint defense initiative, we can provide transportation and supply coordination. One by one, the other council representatives added their voices to the growing consensus. Elena felt a mix of exhaustion and elation as she realized they were actually going to make this work. The desperate gamble that had begun with a mysterious flower was transforming into something that could change the nature of galactic civilization itself. Then we're agreed, Elena said, looking around at the assembled representatives. We'll establish a joint council to oversee the Galactic Defense Network, with representatives from all member species and shared authority over the ancient weapons platforms. Threnity's skin now displayed the brilliant silver that indicated pure joy. The Eternum bloom will serve as the network's central node, maintained here at the preserve under joint protection. It seems fitting that the flower that warned us of the threat should also serve as the symbol of our united response. As the diplomatic session concluded, and the various representatives began discussing implementation details, Elena stepped away from the group and approached the Eternum bloom. The flower's multi-dimensional petals seemed to pulse with gentle approval, as if it too was pleased with the outcome of events it had set in motion. 6 months after the formation of the Galactic Defense Alliance, Elena walked through the expanded preserve that now served as the network's central command facility. The once quiet botanical research station had been transformed into a bustling hub of interspecies cooperation that would have been unimaginable before the Void Hunter crisis. Seltharian botanists worked alongside human engineers to maintain the quantum biological connections that linked the ancient weapons platforms. Andorian logistics specialists coordinated supply runs to remote defensive positions, while Serpentine intelligence analysts processed threat data from the galaxy's outer rim. The integration of 17 different species into a functional military organization had been challenging, but it was working better than anyone had dared hope. Dr. Vasquez called Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, one of the human officers assigned to the Alliance command staff. We're receiving unusual readings from the deep space monitoring stations. Something's approaching from the direction of the void between galaxies. Elena felt a familiar chill of recognition. The Eternum bloom had shown her visions of threats beyond the Void Hunters, entities that existed in the spaces between galaxies where normal physics held no meaning. She had hoped they would have more time to prepare. Alert status? Elena asked, falling into step beside Kim as they headed toward the command center. Ambassador Theiss has already initiated intelligence gathering protocols, Kim reported. Initial scans suggest multiple contacts, but they're moving at speeds that our sensors can barely track. Whatever's coming is far more advanced than the Void Hunters. The command center buzzed with controlled activity, as representatives from all Alliance species worked together to analyze the approaching threat. Elena was struck by how naturally the different species had learned to coordinate their efforts, their various strengths complementing each other in ways that created capabilities none of them possessed alone. Preliminary analysis complete, announced Intelligence Coordinator Theiss. Her serpentine form coiled around a holographic display that showed the galaxy's outer rim. We're detecting 7 massive entities approaching from different vectors. Each one appears to be the size of a small star system and is traveling through dimensions that exist parallel to our own reality. Threnody approached Elena, her skin displaying the deep purple that indicated serious concern. The readings match descriptions from the oldest Zeltharian archives, entities known as the Reality Shepherds. According to legend, they appear when a galaxy develops the capability to affect the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Like activating ancient weapons networks that operate through quantum biological connections, Elena said, understanding beginning to dawn. Our success against the Void Hunters caught their attention. Captain Chen's voice crackled over the communication system from his position at Platform Alpha, one of the primary weapons installations. Elena, we're getting readings that suggest these new contacts aren't hostile. They're curious. Elena felt a moment of relief mixed with new apprehension. Curious cosmic entities could be just as dangerous as hostile ones, depending on their intentions and methods of investigation. All defense platforms, maintain ready status but do not target the approaching entities, Elena ordered. We need to understand what they want before we do anything that might be interpreted as aggressive. Ambassador Krex's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed incoming data streams. Dr. Vasquez, the entities are slowing their approach and taking positions at the galaxy's outer edge. They appear to be waiting for something. Elena looked at the Eternum bloom, which had been moved to the command center when the facility was expanded. The flower's multi-dimensional petals were shifting through patterns she had never seen before, colors that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. They're waiting for us to make contact, Elena realized. The Reality Shepherds don't just observe developing galactic civilizations, they test them. Threnity's eyes widened, her skin shifting to bright yellow. Elena, You're not suggesting what I think you're suggesting. I'm suggesting exactly what you think I'm suggesting, Elena replied, with the kind of determined smile that made alien species nervous. We're going out there to meet them. That's insane even by human standards, protested Commander Torres from his position at the tactical station. We have no idea what these entities are capable of, or what kind of tests they might subject us to. Elena activated the general communication system, addressing all Alliance members simultaneously. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of various other classifications, 6 months ago we proved that cooperation between our species could overcome seemingly impossible odds. Now we're being presented with an even greater challenge. She paused, looking around the command center at the faces and visual displays that represented 17 different species, united in common cause. The reality shepherds are here to determine whether our galaxy has developed the wisdom and capability to join the community of galactic civilizations that exist beyond our local group. This isn't just about defending our territory anymore. It's about proving that we deserve a place in the larger universe. Ambassador Vorth's rumbling voice carried new undertones of consideration. Dr. Vasquez, you're proposing that we send a delegation to meet with entities that exist partially outside our reality. The risks are incalculable. The risks of not meeting with them are even greater, Elena countered. If we fail their test or refuse to take it, they'll quarantine our galaxy to prevent us from affecting the larger cosmic community. Everything we've built, everything we've achieved will be limited to this single galaxy forever. Dr. Tanaka stepped forward from her position at the science station. Elena, I've been analyzing the quantum signatures from the reality shepherds. Their technology operates on principles that make our ancient weapons network look primitive. If they decide we're a threat, there's nothing we can do to stop them. Then we'd better make sure they don't see us as a threat, Elena replied. We need to send a delegation that represents the best of what our alliance has achieved: cooperation, innovation, and the willingness to take risks for the greater good. Elena turned to address the assembled representatives directly. I volunteer to serve as the human representative on the delegation. Who else is willing to risk everything to determine our galaxy's future? The response was immediate and overwhelming. Threnody stepped forward first, her skin displaying the brilliant silver that indicated absolute determination. The Zeltharian collective will be represented. Ambassador Thys uncoiled gracefully. The Serpentine collective offers our services. One by one, every species committed a representative to the delegation, despite the obvious dangers. Elena felt a surge of pride in what their alliance had become. Not just a military organization, but a true community of species willing to face the unknown together. Then it's settled, Elena announced. We'll take the New Horizons as our diplomatic vessel. Captain Okafor, how soon can you have us ready for departure? Give me 12 hours to install additional shielding and modify our communication systems for extra-dimensional contact, Okafor replied. If we're going to meet cosmic entities, we might as well do it in style. As the command center erupted into organized chaos with preparations for humanity's most ambitious diplomatic mission, Elena approached the Eternum bloom one final time. The flower's petals were now glowing with an intensity that seemed to acknowledge the magnitude of what was about to unfold. You knew this would happen, didn't you? Elena asked quietly. The Void Hunters were just the beginning. This is what you were really preparing us for. The flower pulsed once, gently, and Elena could have sworn she heard something like approval in the quantum resonance that connected it to the rest of the botanical network. Whatever happened next, at least they were facing it together. The New Horizons approached the reality shepherd's position at the galaxy's edge, its hull gleaming with modifications that represented the combined technological expertise of 17 species. Elena stood on the bridge alongside her fellow delegates, watching as space itself seemed to bend and twist around the cosmic entities they had come to meet. Sensors are detecting structures that exist in at least 7 dimensions simultaneously, reported Captain Okafor, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were witnessing. Whatever these beings are, they're operating on principles of reality that we can barely comprehend. Elena felt the familiar mixture of terror and excitement that had driven her throughout this incredible journey. Through the ship's viewports, she could see the reality shepherds, beings of pure energy and thought that moved through space like living galaxies, their forms shifting between states of matter that had no names in any known language. "Incoming transmission," announced Lieutenant Kim from the communication station. It's in every language simultaneously. Somehow they're speaking directly to each delegate in their native tongue. The voice that filled the bridge was simultaneously alien and familiar, carrying undertones of wisdom accumulated over cosmic ages. "Representatives of the local galactic cluster, you have been summoned to demonstrate your species' readiness for integration into the greater community." Threnody stepped forward, her skin displaying the formal patterns that indicated she was speaking for all Zeltharian people. "Honored shepherds, we come before you united in purpose and committed to peaceful cooperation among all species." "Your recent actions suggest otherwise," the shepherd replied, their mental voice carrying hints of amusement. "You have awakened weapons capable of reshaping reality itself, coordinated military actions across impossible distances, and demonstrated the kind of chaotic innovation that typically precedes galactic extinction events." Elena felt her heart sink. Had their victory against the Void Hunters actually marked them as a threat to cosmic stability? However, the shepherd continued, "You have also demonstrated something far more rare and valuable, the ability to unite diverse species in common cause without conquest or subjugation. This is why you will face the trial of integration rather than the sanction of quarantine." Ambassador Krex's mandibles clicked nervously. "What does the trial of integration require?" "You must prove that your alliance can function not just in crisis but in the face of ultimate opportunity," the shepherd explained. "We will present you with a choice that will determine not only your galaxy's future, but the future of cosmic civilization itself." The space around the New Horizons suddenly filled with impossible visions, glimpses of the greater community that existed beyond their galaxy. Elena saw civilizations that spanned multiple dimensions, beings of pure thought that communicated across universes, and technologies that could reshape the fundamental laws of physics. "The greater community faces a crisis that threatens the stability of all realities," the shepherd continued. "Entities from the spaces between universes are beginning to break through into ordered reality, consuming entire dimensional matrices. Your species' chaotic innovation and willingness to attempt the impossible may be the key to stopping this ultimate threat." Elena exchanged glances with her fellow delegates, seeing her own mixture of awe and determination reflected in their faces. "What would joining the greater community mean for our galaxy?" "Access to technologies and knowledge beyond your current comprehension," the shepherd replied. "The ability to explore universes beyond your own, to communicate with civilizations that exist in pure thought, to participate in projects that span multiple realities, but also the responsibility to defend all existence against threats that make your recent Void Hunter crisis seem insignificant." Ambassador Theiss coiled herself thoughtfully. "And if we choose not to join?" "Your galaxy will be sealed within a protective dimensional barrier," the shepherd explained. "You will be safe from external threats but permanently isolated from the larger cosmic community. You will develop and evolve within the limits of your own reality, but you will never know what lies beyond." Elena felt the weight of the decision settling on her shoulders. It was exactly the kind of impossible choice that seemed to follow her wherever she went. Safety versus opportunity. Known limitations versus unlimited potential. "How long do we have to decide?" she asked. "The choice must be made now by this delegation, speaking for all the species you represent," the shepherd replied. "The cosmic crisis that threatens all realities grows stronger with each moment of delay." Elena looked around at her fellow delegates, seeing representatives of 17 species who had learned to trust each other through shared danger and common purpose. These beings had followed her into an impossible plan to save their galaxy, had risked everything on human innovation and alien cooperation. "I need to consult with my delegation," Elena said formally. The shepherds withdrew to a respectful distance, leaving the New Horizons crew alone to make the most important decision in galactic history. "The risks are enormous," Ambassador Vorth rumbled, his mountain-like form trembling with the weight of consideration. "We would be committing our entire galaxy to conflicts and responsibilities we cannot even imagine. But the opportunities are equally enormous," Threnody countered, her skin displaying the bright gold that indicated visionary thinking. "We could learn from civilizations that have existed since the beginning of time, contribute to projects that could benefit all of existence. Elena listened to the debate that followed, hearing arguments for both choices that were compelling and terrifying in equal measure. Finally, she held up her hand for silence. 6 months ago, I found a flower that showed me visions of threats approaching our galaxy, she said quietly. I made a choice to trust those visions and attempt something that everyone said was impossible. That choice led to the formation of our alliance and the discovery that we could achieve incredible things when we worked together. She paused, looking at each delegate in turn. Now we're facing an even bigger choice with even greater stakes. But I believe the same principle applies. When the universe presents us with an opportunity to grow, to help, to become something greater than we are, we take it, even if it means risking everything we've built, asked Ambassador Krex. Especially if it means risking everything we've built, Elena replied with a smile that had become familiar to every being who had worked with her. Because that's what defines us as a galactic community. Oh, we're willing to risk what we have to protect what we might become. The vote was unanimous. Elena activated the communication system to address the reality shepherds. We accept integration into the greater community. Our galaxy stands ready to face whatever challenges and opportunities await us. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Knowledge flowed into the ship's computers. Dimensional coordinates for civilizations beyond imagination, technologies that would revolutionize their understanding of existence itself. Welcome to the greater community, the shepherd said, their mental voice now warm with approval. Your first assignment will be to help coordinate the defense against the interreality devourers. Your species' talent for chaotic innovation will be invaluable in developing strategies that more logical civilizations cannot conceive. As the New Horizons began its journey toward the first of many impossible destinations, Elena stood on the bridge watching stars that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Beside her, Threnity's skin displayed patterns of color that indicated pure joy. Elena, Threnody said softly, when you found the Eternum bloom, did you ever imagine it would lead to this? Elena laughed, the sound carrying all the wonder and determination that had driven her from a simple botanical researcher to a coordinator of galactic defense to a representative of her galaxy and cosmic civilization. Threnody, 6 months ago I was just trying to figure out why an impossible flower was growing in your preserve. Now we're heading off to save multiple universes with a crew of 17 species and a communication network based on quantum-entangled botanical specimens. She paused, watching as space itself bent around their ship to allow passage into dimensions that existed beyond normal reality. My reaction to finding that flower was amazement, curiosity, and determination to understand something that shouldn't exist. I suppose you could call that priceless. It led to everything we've become and everything we're about to discover. The Eternum bloom, safely contained in the ship's modified botanical bay, pulsed once with gentle approval as the New Horizons crossed the dimensional threshold and began humanity's greatest adventure among the stars beyond imagination.